the show?
We're on the show. We're on this. It's all here.
How do we share this?
I do not know how you share while you're on. I have no idea.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
Well, I do know that we share after, and it's all good.
Yes, it's so inspiring. I want to do the StreamYard too.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I can't wait to see your show happening and you having conversations, because I know we're going to have an awesome one today. Hey, by the way, it has been far too long, and I have seriously been so excited to see you on the other side of the screen.
Yes.
I just wish big hugs and I just, you posted yesterday that photo, and I was like, I remember that. And I just remember the time we had together. That had to be the last time we actually spent time in the same place.
Yes, that's true, actually. Yes, that was Santa Monica, in this hotel. My mom sends her love. She was.
I love her. She's awesome. Huge love back. I was going to say the same throughout, so I'm glad you just put that in there right now. How is your mom doing? Is she doing good?
Everybody's doing good. Yes.
Okay, good.
So everybody taking good care. They're on a routine. We have a routine because we are in full lockdown here in Germany. So there's a full routine for everybody to stay healthy.
Look, having had the dreaded virus, I had it for 5.5 weeks. It was hideous. I couldn't get out of bed. I lost all sense of smell, taste. It was, I couldn't breathe. I literally didn't know if I was going to survive. And my thinking was I was totally isolated because, of course, Ethan, my son, who is a vulnerable, person of vulnerability. And so I just literally isolated totally from the rest of the family, but I could hear the sounds of family. And like they said, you've got to get to hospital, and I just wouldn't go because if I was going to die, I figured I wanted to die listening to my family and having that. And if there was any thought of survival, would be listening to that and seeing water and just being absolutely, that being my focus rather than stuck in a room with noises and, we're going to talk about journeys. I think that's a huge part of you've been on a huge journey. Firstly, welcome to anyone that is, on here now and then on the replay. These are conversations that I get to have every day this month. I just sent this, I saw it last year that everyone was thinking that the turn of the year, it's all going to be different. We're not going to be facing all these. And I just thought, that is so not true unless you're willing to do something different. And for me, what I was willing to do to make sure there is some sort of shift forward, keep moving forward, is to have these conversations with different people every day. And the reason is that I really, truly believe there is a need for the new approach to leadership. And I'm really interested to see how we look through that through different lenses, because I think it's less telling and more what are the lenses we're using, the questions we're asking, and the people we're having at those tables, and the thinking that we start having differently than we had maybe last year or the year before or ever, right? And so that's why I think everyone that's been on here so far this year has been from a different story, a different journey. But I think that's really important. And I know you've been on a journey, so fill us in a little.
Fill us in a little. Well, I mean, I had also a really hard experience 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a perforated appendix. And it was misdiagnosed by my doctor. It was the flu, she said.
Oh.
And then I went into the hospital. But that was okay. It was a camera operation, wasn't a big deal. It was, I was fighting, but it wasn't really hard. And then I went home after 3 days or 4 days. And then the battle started. And I didn't know what the hell I was battling.
Yeah.
I studied nutrition. I know what to eat. And I was wasting away. And my family was like, are you depressed? What's wrong with you? And I couldn't move. I was on the couch. And so I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. So there's this thing that happens where I lost not having a trust in your body or in your mind.
Wow.
Things were happening to you and you didn't know, what's going on. And well, it was going on for 3 or 4 weeks. And
can I just press in on that one?
Yeah.
You, from what I remember of the past, you were a very controlled person in a lot of ways, right?
Yes.
So let's put a bit of perspective on this.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're feeling your body out of control. That's doing things that, hey, I had that control before. What's happening? So yeah, continue. I think this is so interesting.
Well, it's interesting in the sense of a leader because I used to be this hardcore businesswoman. Boom, money, 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 supporting people, loving sales, loving launching.
And by the way, you were a killer at being that person too, by the
way. but I loved it. And here I was like wasting away. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. So there was it was a wake up call. Yeah. And thank God I developed a fever. I was over 38.4 and then I wasn't feeling well. And I was like, you know what? I have to go back to that hospital where I went. Well, and they found this huge 2 abscesses. They were like 5 centimeter types.
Crazy
in my body. And then they went in there with they were shooting into my abdomen, and then all the green and yellow shit came out of me. But that was only one abscess.
So I'm visual. So I'm just visualizing this right now, and it's not a pleasant feel.
I've never had anything like this. I've never had an operation like this. So because I've been always healthy, and this was like, what is this? I have no control, And it was fascinating because also I love the new paradigm of women leadership. I was lying in the CT. There was one woman, she was an emergency surgeon. She was holding my my pain medication. There was one woman sitting on me who was shooting into me. And there was another nurse who was giving the shooter attention. So I had 3 women. And we all did not know if this is going to work or not because they had a huge hours. And so she was putting the needle in, finding the right spot, and it worked. And it was like the silence. And boom, it worked. And I was so thankful for these women, that they were all there and they were celebrating with me that all the shit came out without an operation. But then I went upstairs, and then the real battle began because then there was sepsis going on. And and then I collapsed. And I remember my dad sitting with me and holding my hand because I couldn't do anything. There was nothing. I was like you, lying in the bed, couldn't do anything, And I had to let go and let God, kind of.
Yeah.
I couldn't push. I couldn't. Yeah, it was really an interesting experience. Scary, but interesting.
So tell me, why was it so scary for you? I know for me, it was like, it's totally out of my control. I don't even know. Like, honestly, I wasn't even wanting to go to sleep in case that was the last time I woke up. And I just wanted to take everything. I don't know about you, but I wanted to take everything in. I wanted to make sure I'd message people I loved throughout that time. I was messaging so many people and just caring for people and going, hey, I really love you. And I've loved, like it's, and then I was thinking, if I was to make it through the night, what would I get excited about that I can still do because I know my work isn't finished here. And I began dreaming what that could look like.
I love
what about that? What was that like for you though?
Well, the brain gets pretty much muddled through the whole process
Mm.
because the bacteria are flowing around you. And so, even 3 weeks before, I was like totally out of it, kind of. You like get confused, you're tired, and yeah, it's weird. So I had like crazy trips.
Without drugs.
And I was going out of my body. I was flying.
Wow.
But the scary moments that I had, though, was where I had to let really go, was like I would tell the nurse, I feel like I'm going to die. And I said it twice to different nurses. And they couldn't help because they didn't even, they would call me contaminated, but they wouldn't call it sepsis because
isn't that nice? I'm contaminated.
we do a lot of work on that. And it wasn't their fault
Wow.
because they don't really have protocols here yet in Germany. Yeah. So it's like I was the contaminated one. And then
Hey, by the way, I have to do a shout out. Bill Barron is saying, wow, two of my favorites together. There we go.
Bill.
We love you, Bill.
Love you. Oh. Well, so the thing was that the nurse said she can't help me because I can't tell her my symptoms.
Mm.
And that was an interesting thought. Like, damn, man, I can't even communicate and I need help. And I've never had this in my life. And this has happened twice. So I was trying to convince people that something's really off. And so they did different antibiotics. I got the bombs, they were IV every 4 hours, like crazy stuff. And but it worked. I came through. I wouldn't sit here.
And so glad. And how healthy do you look? You look amazing, by the way.
Yeah, so I came out with one abscess still in me. And I was like, oh man, this thing can rupture any time. Then I have to have another operation. A mind fuck from that, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
And no one tells you what to do when you had sepsis or that you have sepsis syndrome, which, you have panic attacks or you have tiredness or fatigue and all this. No one talks to you about it because no one knows. No one's educated. So I did routines. I had to place healthy routines in my life, and I've been living by them. And thank God I have, And so, I want to bring this out in the world. So this happened to me, the sepsis thing, and now I realized so many people are dying of sepsis, and so many people have sepsis.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, it's like 50 million a year have sepsis.
Huge.
11 million die a year. That's only in a hospital setting. The rest you don't, So there's a lot of things that need to be done, especially the education of the medical system. The doctors and nurses. Some do know, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
The time thing, it's like time. If you don't get the right antibiotics in time, you're done.
Yeah. Don't you think this is, and this is that whole conversation that I really believe is the need for a new approach to leadership, that what has worked in the past hasn't, there are parts that continue to keep working, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of as we become more educated, we realize there is a lot more need to actually do things differently. And in the way of what you're saying here, how do you think we can do that better? Like, how can we have more education around this? How can we, those that are survivors, how do they become from surviving to thriving? Like, what does that look like?
In leadership. Well, I think the whole thing that's happening with the pandemic or with Corona is that we all have to become more human, or are meant
I love that.
to become more human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the normal marketing, sales bullshit out there is not working anymore. It doesn't. Leadership that's old and crusty and shitty, no one has respect for that anymore, because we all kind of get locked up, or we are, have the sickness or have this or have that. So we are confined, and we have to sit with ourselves, with our emotions, and we become more real through that. And I think that realness needs to reflect the leadership. And there needs to be vulnerability in leadership. You know what I mean? Like,
I do, but here's the thing. So I'm having these conversations and people are going, wow, you're talking about all these things, like, and going down these rabbit holes that a lot of people won't stand up and talk. Can I tell you that we often don't get many comments in things because even though I'm willing to do this, there is this norm of we don't say it in a public platform, because if we do, someone might say, wow, why are you saying this? Or, you know, this is going against the grain of what others are thinking, or all that crusty leadership you talk about. Like, it's really hard when there's like zillions going that way, but you know that maybe this way is going to be more beneficial. And even though a lot of those zillions want to go that way, it's really hard to be maybe that first person that leads the way, or only a few people leading the way. How do we do that and be more vulnerable, but not get lost in all the problems and the challenges and the, you know, like, we're not saying that so much, or are we?
Well, I think though, the whole Corona or leadership or whatever, the whole thing that's happening right now is we are all restimulated, meaning all our emotions are up. We are all raw, right?
Yeah.
So all our shit is up. Sorry that I have to be very bold. And it's
the girl, you can say whatever you want here.
Yes, and it's this thing that when you are a leader, you need to think, because you're thinking about people. You lead. So you need to make sure that you are releasing your shit, however you do that. You know, take care of yourself, take care of your emotions, let it out, not on your people that you're leading, but get the support that you can think well, so that you can lead. And also to have this part of feeling and showing emotions. You know, I have not today, but I have goosebumps when you were sharing your story, and I have goosebumps all the time. And usually I cry when I tell my story, and that's okay, because it's like, we are all humans here. We are all in this together. We're going through this, and you know, we don't know what's coming next. And so we better release the stuff that gets in the way of us thinking well about what the next steps are. And this is by being human, by releasing, you know. And I love children because they show us how they release. If they have something, let it out. I'm not saying that leaders should let it out on their people, no, but that they have time for themselves where they can have a safe space to let it out.
I love that. Totally. And I think, you know, that's, Sorry. What I was going to say on that one was, no. I just wanted to make sure we get that, because I talk about that, which is curating safe spaces. And you're absolutely saying that the importance of one of the reasons to curate safe spaces is so leaders can get it out, can have the space to not churn on this, not hold it in, because we know that just becomes like this thing that bottles up until it spreads, and it's kind of not nice when you've got stuff in you, like you've been talking about, right? It's got to come out somewhere. And so in that case, curating a beautiful, safe space for leaders to be able to do that is so important. Once you've done that, then what? You were just about to say.
Well, then you can hold space for the people you need, because they were stimulated too. They're like going to attack you more. They're going to flip out more. They have more feelings more, because even, you know, I always say, even the people who deny about the mask and deny the COVID, they're fucking freaked out like hell. That's why they're creating the shit in their head. So everyone's freaked out in their own way. So, but in order to handle them, you know, as a leader, to handle all this crazy shit from people, because they're also restimulated, because it's a restimulating time, we need to have space and time for ourselves in order to hold that. Otherwise, we can't think well, you know. And then we get very judgmental, and then it's hard to lead.
So you as a leader, how hard has it been over the years, and as you continue now, to stand in that vulnerability?
Well, it's a new way of me, I tell you.
Right?
It's like there's no wall, kind of. I have to release when I have to release, you know. When I have feelings, I let it out, because otherwise I have a panic attack, because that's part of post-sensory syndrome. So I don't want to feel the panic, so I rather release and then I come back to it. Vulnerability can be used against you, but the way I do it, I prepare people. Okay, so let's say I'm showing some vulnerability, then I explain what I'm doing, or why am I showing it, or why I'm having these feelings, or why am I doing this. So it's like I'm preparing people that I'm having feelings, because most people freak out when other people have feelings, vulnerability. So you can prepare people for that, and then they love you even more and have more understanding for you, because then you became human and not this authority figure, you know, this up on the pedestal. So I think showing vulnerability and preparing people that you are vulnerable and that you're going to show that makes them absorb it more, and then they feel more vulnerable to show their stuff too. So then it's easier to read for you. You know what I mean? It's like
when you create that space, it gives permission for others to be able to see, hey, this is okay, this is good. In fact, this is really healthy and beneficial when we get this out and are able to move through it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest problem that we're dealing with as leaders is attacks. You know, I mean, I've been doing some viral testing of marketing and videos and doing all kinds of campaigning and stuff. And it's fascinating. I mean, when you have 1 million views, or I had this one video was 17 million views for a video, and then you know, you get all kinds of bots or crazy people, and there's this attack thing happening too. There's lots of good stuff, but there's also attacks happening. So you have to make sure that you create a safe space for yourself, you know.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because, you know, when you're willing to stand up and stand strong for what you want to, as your values, what your beliefs are, which you are, by the way, very, very good at doing this. And you just got to know that there's going to be some backlash, where there's some people that don't like it, some people who are probably going to say something, you know, not nice. Do you have strategies, or do you have ways in which you deal with that?
Yeah, I usually work on it. Like if something really pisses me off, get really fucked up mad about it, that's something where I need to grow. It's just like a mirror, you know, like what exactly made me so mad. So I'm actually taking it and then I work on it and, you know, question it. I use some stuff where I question what really is behind why am I really mad, and then usually I lift. And so it's more actually, if something really bothers me a lot, then there's some growth for me in that. So I can be thankful about it. As long as I know I have a safe space where I can release emotions around it, I'm fine, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's so good. I just want to say on that one, because we just got to know that this is part of the journey if you're willing to stand up and be vocal about it, like have a voice for it, right? And I think that that's so good. So create that space where you've got the outlet that you can then work through it. How do you do that in a public way, working through it? Because I think, you know, many will go, delete that. But I actually don't delete things. I use them to teach or to go, hey, that's okay. Because, you know, one of the things I talk about is that we've got to be willing as leaders in this new this new approach to leadership is to be uncomfortable. Comfortable with the uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think that this is one of those moments where, how do we be comfortable with the uncomfortable? Do we just ignore it when we get these comments on public spaces? Do we just work through it in the private ourselves? How do you deal with that? And I know you've got some more strategies you were going to say around that, but I'd really love, I think that's an important thing to hear how others are doing it, because I know personally for myself, I use those comments. So I don't delete them unless they're absolutely just, you know, just just disgusting, like not human kind of comments. But
Yeah.
if it's just because they disagree and they're cranky about it, and it's something they're not saying it in a nice way, I don't ignore that. I actually bring that into a conversation and I try and find out where that's coming from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I do it is like, if I'm too stimulated to communicate to that person, I will not communicate to that
Which,
person.
by the way, can be a safe thing to have as a guard there.
Well, and then I work on the shit, and then I might go back to that person and communicate. Okay. When I can actually think, this is again about if emotions are up because of the whole environment, whatever is going on, everything is anyway heightened. So a little something blows you up. Well, take your time, work on it, figure it out, counsel on it, whatever, let it out. Figure out what it really bothers, what's really underneath it that bothers you. Maybe you need to work on your shit and look at it. That's the mirror. And then you go back and, communicate to that person, but unrestimulated. And then the conversation can be held on a completely different level, I think. And if you haven't finished that work, then the next person will come with the same shit in some other form.
So true. So true. Don't worry, if you haven't learned this lesson yet, there'll be another lesson.
There will be another one. Yes. But the thing is, though, the danger for leadership right now is to not have each other's backs too.
Yeah, so true.
Because I've seen leaders being attacked in their groups, and I've tried to stand up for leaders where I know there's completely clean intention, and it's important too that they need to feel, because when you're a leader, you're very isolated. Leading is isolating, right? This is why it's so great to have these calls and you're reaching out, and because we leaders, we just basically do our thing and we lead. And it's an isolating thing, and so our responsibility is not only about leading people, but to have each other's backs.
Yeah.
To be there for each other in that isolation.
How do we do that better? How do we do that better as leaders?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Well, number one is I think you are doing it already. I mean, you're bringing people daily together and you're streaming it out, and you're just doing it. Boom, 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 boom. You're getting people out of isolation. How to do it better? Well, maybe there's another new form of collaboration, because things are not only about money anymore, because you can't buy anything. I mean, I'm in lockdown.
So we can't go and spend it. Oh, we can online, but but it's like, one of us who are online all the time, we go, I don't really want to have to shop online as well now. So, less things.
I mean, it's true though. It's like consumption has completely changed the way we consume.
Yeah.
And
so true.
To think about us leaders in the sense of reaching out, or saying hello, or I was checking in with some, how are you doing, and just listening, giving them listening time. If I'm good, if I'm taking care of myself really well with my routines, I have great attention, and this is what we need as leaders. A little bit of attention. Safe space and a little bit of attention, please. We don't know that sometimes because we're so much in isolation, but this is what we really crave for. So I reach out, and even if when they're far away, or I'm checking in, how are you doing, and I think that helps. And then also standing for people who are being attacked as a leader.
Yes, I think that's one of the best ways we can have each other's backs.
Very much, yes. And trying to create an understanding about leadership, because
and even when people are being crushed, and you can see it as a really public space, behind the scene, reaching out to them, hey, just want to send you some extra love today.
Yes.
I'm here for you if you need to have a call.
Yes. That's I think that's
even if you disagree with what's happening and what they're saying, I still believe we've got to have each other's backs.
Yes.
And I think that this is not the way that it's been done in the past. I'll have your back if I agree with you.
Yes, it's true. It's
But
very
if we are to see humanity as stakeholders first at the table, then we have to see there is another human who is going through a difficult time right now.
Yes, that is true.
And I think that is part of this new approach where we are not just going, hey, I'm going to now just have at this table people that all look like me, sound like me, feel like me, and are going through the same things as me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is not going to change or bring that change that we're talking about that is needed, right? So for that to happen and for us to have each other's back doesn't mean that I'm going to, agree with 100% of what you're saying, believing, and doing. But as a human being, boy, do I have your back 100%. And I think that's not the way it's done. But it's the way to do it going forward, and I think that you hit it on the nail on the head, because when I was, the nomadic CEO around the world, traveling in and out of cultures, I gained a lot of insights. And you know what? The one thing that I was starting to write a book about, that was isolation. I saw isolation affecting, and in that time I was saying leadership, but I was saying beyond leadership, actually, and this is literally the words that I was saying. I felt it was an epidemic that was hitting across humanity. How crazy is that? And then we go in a lockdown and isolation becomes the big thing. But I saw that way before it became this, everyone hates isolation or whatever, around isolation. It is such a destroyer. And the thing from all my work, my insights, the solution that I felt was collaboration. And we cannot collaborate if we don't have each other's backs.
That's true. That is so true.
And here's the other piece. I don't know where collaboration has really been successful and leadership. Like I see pockets of little bits of collaboration. But as the actual fundamental of a company, of the thinking, it is really hard to find.
Yeah. Well,
and that kind of became a mission of mine to go, well, okay, if there's not one and I need to do that, what can that look like? How can we collaborate? What does that need to look like for it to work? Because we know, if I truly believe that is part of the solution, then now how do I ensure that I am leading the way in being able to create something that is all about collaboration?
Yeah.
Any thoughts, insights around that?
My thoughts are, I've been on TikTok a lot because
You have. I saw a little post of this little TikTok. I go, she's game.
Yeah, because I watched the whole development in the States, all the uprising, all this, and the kids were sharing, and these young kids. And I have to say, through watching them, I saw the new form of leadership and collaboration. These young kids, they have that. They have this. They collaborate together. They work together. They have some strength I haven't seen in this Generation Z. I mean.
So tell me, what is that? What are the things that we can think, let's take that and use that?
Well, basically, they will lead or work together, and they would die for each other, and that's a strength I haven't seen. I mean, I saw these videos of these kids, and I was reminded of the Berlin Wall coming down when we were on the streets and we were on the underground, and it was just like, damn, these kids, they have balls.
Right.
They were like out there doing their thing, and it was very inspiring. I got really inspired by this young generation leading the way that we can learn from as an older generation.
Okay, so what are we going to learn from? Tell me more. See, to me, that backs up my whole thing of your vision needs to be so strong and take people with you with that vision on your journey. What are some of the other things you would say from that? Let's pull from that.
Well, let's pull from it. Well, in the sense of that, the kids were they were so connected with each other. They didn't care if they're gonna die for the cause that they're gonna go for, no matter what it was.
Connection, the tribe,
That
I'll do whatever it is because I've got others.
And there's a collaboration of we need to change something, and we're gonna stand up and have each other's backs, and that was very inspiring.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that I have never seen this kind of strength in young. I mean, young people are strong, but in the sense of to this degree, I was really impressed by it, and I was blown away by it, by that force that they have.
I want, so let's go there, because I so want this in the new approach to leadership. And I think you talked about the crusty leadership. Part of that is there was a leader that was telling, and if you agreed with that, then you went with. Now that's very different to what you're talking about right now. And in fact, what we're seeing, because of the challenges across the world, in many nations, as we're seeing right now, that you know, that these challenges are actually bringing division, not collaboration.
Well, the thing is, leadership is, I mean, I see leadership, it's like, it's not really that you're leading. It's more like you're thinking about people, how they become leaders. This is how
I love that.
So, and there is no hierarchy, you know, I'm above you.
Oh, what is with that? What is with that?
Yeah, but it's just that's ego feeding, you know, like, but you know, we go
seriously. I've had the privilege, and people will remind me of this, of sitting at tables with former presidents from countries and nations, and it's closed doors from anyone else, because like, if anyone knew that we were all meeting in the same place, it wouldn't be a good thing. And you know, I had the opportunity, say, to be at that table where we're talking about forward leadership, and that was the whole lens in which we were having conversations around. Now, people go to me, you're crazy. Like, how do you have those conversations? Because I can do the same thing with the children in the beautiful villages of Fiji and still be just as comfortable, because I go back to this first thing, which is seeing humanity as stakeholders. There is not any levels in humanity. The one thing we've got in common is that we're all humans, and we're on this race called life, this journey ahead, and that kind of puts us all at the same space. There is no, I mean, some of these, I have to say, some of these leaders were phenomenal leaders in their own rights, but I saw them as humans that had this amazing vision, mission, that they stood beside, and they'll do whatever that takes to get there. And because of that, they're just like every other human having an everyday conversation. And I think that as long as we keep putting it as the hierarchy thing, then there's this whole authority piece that comes into leadership that is often, by the way, you know, not treated with wisdom. You know, and in fact has huge consequences because people use authority in the wrong ways.
Yeah, very much so. But it's old way of leading, I think. Like I said, the crusty leading, because I think when there is a hierarchy, there's no growth, because I mean, you have to be at the level that people are with you, right? Because then you can lift them up. I mean, if you're above them.
So why have we had it this way? And if we were to do it different, how do we do that differently?
Well, leading. Well, the important is that when you lead, to make sure that you, how do you say that? That you really respect people's thinking. But you have to have attention for that as a leader, right? So when people feel respected, number one, they want to follow you, because out of that respect that you bring them, they will bring respect back to you. They're reflecting you. I mean, it's really like this. I mean, the people that you lead are your mirror, right? So what do you want the mirror to show? So this is
I was just thinking, I've heard complaints in the past from, clients who go, I don't like who I get to work with. And I'm thinking, if you use that as the lens of what you're just saying right now, I wonder if those people were, and I thought about it and I'm thinking, yes, you're right. Most of those people aren't that nice to hang out with themselves. So, it's so true.
And I think
so true.
What is most important is that you know people's oppression. That's a strong word, but or like people's struggle. Let's use this word. Oppression is heavy, but I like
it. I don't mind the heavy. We can go heavy.
So, like, if you know the oppression that the person is dealing with every day, and you acknowledge that, and you have an understanding what they're dealing with every day, then you can lead. Because that brings also an understanding and space for the person to grow. If you have no understanding about that, you can't lead them. You can do whatever you want, but you can't lead because you have no bandwidth or understanding of what they're facing. So how can you lead them, and how can they follow or trust you? So as leaders, we need to know the oppressions that's hitting every person that's in front of us. That's our responsibility.
And that comes down to what I talk about, where there needs to be an awareness, right?
Yes.
How do we increase our awareness?
Well,
if this is true, if we need to be able to have more awareness, understand different oppression and be aware of what that is, how do we do that better?
Well, number one, you have to work on yourself, because, if you're not aware of it, you have something running. You have to.
That is so true.
You have to look at it. And that's okay. Some people start feeling guilty, and I'm like, well, but you have to look at it. It's okay. It's you're human. I mean, you're born into this society, so shit's coming at you, and you're picking up the shit, and now you have to learn how to figure this out. But now that you've grown up, you can look at it. You can look at what people are struggling with. What is a person who is a person of color versus a white person, a woman versus a man, a gay person versus a straight person, right? Or a working class versus owning class, right? If you know these oppression or religious or whatever is going on, and whoever you're serving, you need to know who's in front of you and what they're struggling with. And then you be a great leader because you have some bandwidth. You will make mistakes, I mean, I will still make mistakes, and that's okay, because we're human, but we're working on it, and we become better leaders from that. And I think that's the new leadership that is needed. And you meet a lot of old crusted leaders, and you can tell, well, you need to do a little work, let's help you, or maybe you should start working on it.
Or find some other vocation.
Yes.
Just saying. So, okay, cool. I get that. We create awareness. So for you, what does that mean? When you say oppression, what are you facing on a daily basis, or have to keep working through yourself?
Well, oppression in the sense of, for me, now I have to work on how for example, I'm German, right? So
I have noticed that.
Yeah. You noticed that, right? Good. Well, Germans have tendencies, and you have to look at that. And you
I've noticed that too.
You did? Oh my God. So you have to look at your shit. I have to look at my anti-Semitism. I have to look at my, the things that are running, because Germans like to run things and have these, over the top kind of a trying to run the world kind of a thing. That's in us. It's just in it. So these things I have to work on, and that's okay. But I'm acknowledging it, So,
and I think that's the key, right? Is the acknowledgement, the ownership.
Yes, the ownership. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what I would say is the next fundamental. I think there's 4 absolute fundamentals to leadership that you then build out on, right? And these are just lenses in which to look through. And one is awareness. And the next one is ownership. The next one is change. So now that you're owning that, how do you change what you're doing so that you can bring sustainable solutions to the table?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in your case, what are you doing?
Well, I wasn't finished that. And then I have this thing of racism. I have racism running. Mostly all the time, because we're living in a society that's built on it. So the interesting part there is when I say that to a white person, white people get really scared. There's a lot of, there's growth now. It's happening from this Generation Z that started it. Thank God for them bringing that in. But the racism runs for leaders, which is very important, is speaking order. And that's a very important thing for me in the sense of, white people and white males speak a lot, speak all the time. They don't need a little encouragement. They will start bombing away. It's true. So,
I have never thought of that, but you're right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So they don't need much encouragement. That's right.
So as a leader, when you lead people, to know why certain people aren't quiet, why is that? And to really learn about that and to understand that, and making sure that they have a voice, that they are able to have a voice. Yeah. So, and this awareness, this is needed when you lead, even, speaking order in the sense, right? Yeah. I have always in my teams that I have speaking orders,
Wow.
Always. Yeah. And that creates a balance, and that's interesting. And that's a good balance. Everybody feels comfortable. And so it's not comfortable in the sense of, oh, I'm comfy. No, but in the sense everybody starts to relax and starts to work better together. Right? Yeah. So it's my, as a leader, it's important for me to work on my shit around oppressions. And then I'm available and more aware of what's going on with my teams, with my people that I lead. And I have more attention, and that brings more trust, and it brings more movement actually for everybody.
Love that. Yeah.
So this is the so this is kind of the thing that we need to work on as leaders.
I love that.
But it's not about me telling leaders you have to work on this. No. It's more like my responsibility for myself, I would never run and say, oh, you have to work on your shit. Maybe I would say that, but like
I was gonna say, I think you would say that actually. Let's get real here. This is real raw conversations at this table.
With love.
No, I love that. And one of the things you said, and it's so important to me, and this is where I think humanity has, as stakeholders at the decision table, we have to see humanity first, bring your distinctions, and I want those distinctions at the table, because those distinctions are going to give us different flavors to look through, different lenses. There's so much greatness. And here's the other thing about that. When you see humanity as stakeholders, you give voice. What is it that you're working on right now that you want to give voice to that is really important to you?
Well, right now I'm working on the sepsis thing because experience in the hospitals or with doctors, or even not with my family, but they had no understanding what was going on with me. And so what happens is they don't believe you.
Yeah.
So, because they don't understand what's going on for you. And
Yes.
so I think my work now is to bring, they launched yesterday in America a sepsis registry, national registry.
Wow.
And I want this for Europe so that people can be treated better, that there's protocols. And, it affects also COVID long haulers, because COVID long haulers have the post-sepsis syndrome, because, from a virus, you can have sepsis, because if the virus takes over, then you have sepsis symptoms. So this is all things that we need to look at and support people with, And so I want to bring awareness to an education, so that people don't have to hear I'm feeling like dying, and then the person, the nurse tells you she can't help you because she doesn't know your symptoms. And the funny thing is, I cried the first time I read it. It's on a pamphlet from Sepsis Alliance, and it says, one symptom of sepsis is that you feel like dying. And when I saw it, I cried, because then I understood, I wasn't crazy. I actually felt like this, and people didn't believe me. And nothing is harder when you feel people don't understand you or believe you,
Oh, that's so true.
That's a hard depression to deal with. Not oppression, but a hard struggle to have. So I think this is what I'm going to try to do, figure out to build a big platform, so that I reach a lot of people. I started putting out a big tweet yesterday, putting our health minister in, our European people.
Watch out, Europe. Watch out.
All the sepsis alliances and sepsis foundations, so that we start to move, and they're trying. But I think with my marketing skills, I can, grassroots skills, I can.
But I love that, because now you use what was something that you had a passion around at one point, and it was good, and it achieved what you needed to at that time. You now go, I'm going to use that skill and bring it in with this passion of, actually, these are the footprints I'm leaving behind, my legacy, and how do we make this happen? What if people want to come on that journey with you? How do they best get hold of you?
They can just Google sepsis survival. I'm building the website right now. It's not ready yet. I just started 14 days ago. But I got the .com, and I got all the social media. You can go and you'll find me on any social media outlet under sepsis survival, and you can connect. And the other thing is about sepsis, it needs humanity. We need more medical blah 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 blah. We had to deal with that in the hospital. As a sepsis survivor, it's like we need the humanness of it, and that's what I want to bring into this.
So maybe if someone's got a story around it, they can reach out, and maybe that would be helpful, right? For you to have more stories around it, and how people have worked through that, and build on that. That would be a great.
I'm starting a show like yours.
Fantastic. There you go. So
I set up my StreamYard today, so
bring it on. We love that. Okay, so one of the things that I do ask on every one of these conversations is, because I think one of the things of these conversations is that it creates an awareness, and like we've talked around today, and I love that, and an awareness that really starts within us. And so from our conversation today, what is something that you're going to take on board? You're going to, maybe you've thought you're going to think more on, whatever that is. What have you got from this conversation?
Well, I think when you shared your story in the beginning, like when you had COVID and you didn't know you're going to make it, and you were reaching out to people, and you were like, you didn't want to die in the hospital, you wanted to die at home. That's one thing. You reminded me of my grandmother. She had cancer, lung cancer. She decided she wanted to die at home, and I was like totally fine with it. And I think to have these strong boundaries about how you want it to be, no matter what.
Oh, that's so good.
It's very powerful, and it shows your strength. And I think that's what I want too, like in the sense of my life and my death, no matter when that is or what it is. But these are my boundaries. These are my rules. And this is how I'm going to get through this. And either I die here or not, or I live here or not. And it's my way of living. And I think that's very inspiring when you shared that. And I think you should share it more. Like that's that it really just moved me, like you shared that.
Thank you.
And this is again the humanity, like the shit that happens to us and that happens to everyone right now, in some form. Either they lose somebody or they get sick or whatever it is, a disaster of economics or whatever. And so this is the part that we bond in. And so when we share these struggles,
it's that connection piece that you were talking about, right?
Yes, that's what we need. And that's what we're all craving, this connection part, because we're all struggling right now. And so that's good that you're sharing this. And I think it's important for us to show all our humanity as leaders at the moment, because everybody is struggling.
Yeah, right? I totally agree that, and it doesn't matter where you're on the journey, there is going to be some challenge, some struggle, some difficult time that you've got to get through, right? And out the other side. So I totally get that. And I love that. Thank you. The thing that I've got from this conversation is your reminder of young people and the thinking behind that, and just, you put a lens on, and the reason I kind of dived into that more was because I was really interested to see what you had learned from that. And I'm going to take those things, and just feels like almost those are great examples of great collaborations. And I want to pull apart how that works. And you're so right about tribe, and you're so right about people that have their backs, I've got young girls, and they're very much into their friends right now. And the reason they're into their friends is because that's their tribe. That's who they're, and they will do anything, have each other's back. They do things like TikToks, and they do things like, YouTube little shows and things like that, because they do it together and they build out on it. And I think, how much more powerful can we be as leaders when we get that connection piece right? And from that connection piece, we then build out into how can we collaborate. And, a lot of my work is built on this, but I think just having a different lens and seeing, I don't know, it's kind of like I talked about, I put hope on here, and I just feel like that's a piece of hope for our future. It's a piece of hope knowing that it can be done, and it can be done well. And we're seeing it in that generation. And the other piece of that is I do an annual Global Human Intelligence Forum, and I say I do one. I've done one. I'm doing it again this year. And so it's an annual thing. But I have to say, there was a moment in there that I put on a panel of particularly young people, and then one of those young people being my own son, who has special needs, as you know, Ethan, and giving him a voice. And I think that is so important, that we continue to realize that distinctions at decision tables can look all shapes, sizes, colors. And so that was a beautiful, and genders, whatever. That was a beautiful reminder to keep remembering to look through different lenses to create awareness. So I really thank you for that, and appreciate that. If you were to leave someone with something today, what would that be?
What would that be? Just fucking live your life to the fullest.
Of course it will be.
I think that's important to just have the whole range of emotions and let them out and live them.
Yeah. I love that. And girl, you do that so well. You do it so well. You you radiate this.
You do too, girl. You do too. I was watching you when you were doing your program. I was like, oh, she's going, man. She's going.
But you radiate as a leader, and I think this is important and you radiate because you are so you've got this in you, you've been through this experience, you know the power of when people have your back, you know when people are educated that you will get the right diagnosis and you'll get the right resources and tools to help get through that. You radiate this, I don't know, just this, I think wisdom is what I say, because I think there's some wisdom that you're taking into your work now that I love from what you have done in the past, what you've maybe done not so right, and you're learnt from that. And then with just even your cross-cultural, like I know when I last saw you were still living in America at that time, and then you moved back to Germany, and just the wisdom that you take from being willing to step into many different pockets of life, I think is now coming out of you so much. And I love watching that, and I'm excited to keep continuing, watch that unfold. And girl, I got your back. I got your back.
Oh, I got your back too, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You're so very welcome. And for everyone that's been on here today, make sure you do share this. If you love this, and just a disclaimer, if you've got children, put headphones on when you listen to this. No, just kidding. But, because there may be some words in here that are not quite the words that your children might want to hear. I'm just stirring.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. My kids go, don't worry, we've heard it before, and not so much for me, but there is another person in my house that may use lovely words like that so much. So we're used to it. I just always laugh when I hear that as a disclaimer on some podcasts and things like that. So I thought, I'm just going to put that in there because I can. So anyway, there have been amazing golden nuggets today. So much, like we've gone deep in so many different rabbit holes and come back out of them. And, I just see so much of the lenses you've used, the learnings that you've used to really cement a lot of the things of the new approach to leadership, not the crusty approach, the going back to the fact that the importance of curating safe spaces, having each other's backs. What are some of the other things that we're really awesome
that we're dealing with, that you have to know them as a leader?
Questions, yes. Definitely the challenges, the struggles. And then the other one I thought was really awesome was the fact that, if you are going through those struggles and you're really angry, that maybe don't do that online. Maybe go and deal with that in a safe space. Then when you're ready to, and if that's appropriate, then come back in and work with that. But to only do that when you're in that right space for that. I thought that was a really good point. Any other ones I've missed?
You're doing great. You did.
Thanks. So for those that are listening to the replay, if you've got it, share it. Awareness is so important. And the only way we can gain awareness around the things that we've talked about today is if others will share it out there. Because there's only me and there's only you, and yet there's zillions of other people. And if we keep sharing that, then others are going to hear about it, right?
Right.
All right. I'm going to end this broadcast, but don't you go away because I've got a few things to talk to you about. Yeah. All right. Big love to the world. Ciao, everyone.
Mwah, mwah.